One day, the world comes to an end. A massive pandemic spreads, infecting hundreds of thousands of people. Wars break out, leading to heavy military losses, economic decline, and a severe shortage of food. People riot and fight each other in the streets. However, the final blow to humanity comes from outside. Giant monsters suddenly appear and begin slaughtering people. Just like in comic books, metahumans with special abilities awaken to fight the monsters. Unfortunately, they are not strong enough to stop the apocalypse. 3 days later, a young man sits inside an apartment building surrounded by ruins. He eats a bag of chips and drinks a soda, noting that the world has not completely ended for him because he is still living normally. He sits alone in the dark watching a blank TV screen. He explains that he is the only one living in the apartment, while his parents and grandparents are trapped outside. His father bought the place by taking out a massive bank loan and using all of their family assets. The young man is living there because someone needs to occupy the apartment for 2 years to receive the tax benefits. Because of this, he has been locked inside since the apocalypse started. He looks at his phone and sighs in frustration when he sees there is no network connection. Suddenly, a loud screech echoes outside. He looks toward the balcony and sees a massive winged monster flying toward him. The creature crashes into the balcony window, bearing sharp teeth and multiple tongues. The young man falls backward onto the floor and screams as the monster tries to break through the bars. Just as the monster strikes, a blue system screen flashes in front of him. A digital barrier pushes the monster back. The screen reads that a subject without permission is trying to enter. Another system window pops up displaying a level 1 passive skill called Ultimate Shut-in-House Declaration. The skill states that no one can enter the house without the ruler's permission. The young man sighs in relief and admits that this ability is the only reason he is still alive. He walks over to the front door and tries to pull the handle, but it will not open. He aggressively kicks the door in frustration. He stands in his apartment on the 3rd day of the apocalypse and realizes that the same ability protecting him has also completely trapped him inside the house. A system screen appears in front of him stating that the ultimate shut-in cannot leave the house. He pulls his hair in frustration and yells that he is completely trapped and cannot do anything. He realizes his biggest problem right now is food. He sits on the floor surrounded by empty ramen cups and snacks. His refrigerator lost power the day before. He has been surviving on side dishes his mother made for him, but he knows they will not last long without cold storage. He notes that he only has a few packets of ramen left. Suddenly, a blue system screen pops up stating that he has hunted a level 23 Calican. A second screen informs him that he has obtained a great amount of experience points and his skill level has increased. He looks out the balcony window and sees a group of monsters tearing apart the winged creature from earlier. He realizes he received the kill credit because the monster died after crashing into his house's barrier. A new system message states he has obtained a new skill and that nearby loot is being calculated. Below him, the monsters shriek and look up toward his apartment. The system finishes calculating the loot and deposits over 2.2 million won into his digital wallet. The young man looks around in confusion as the ceiling lights suddenly turn on. A system screen updates his house declaration skill to level 3. Another screen introduces a level 1 passive skill called Dignity Preservation. The skill states that half of the house's functions will be restored in order to preserve his dignity. He cheers excitedly and runs to the sink. He turns the faucet and clean water flows out. He touches the stove and it instantly turns on. He falls to his knees on the kitchen floor and cries tears of joy, stating that everything is working just like it did before the world ended. Hoping the internet is back, he grabs his phone to check the network. The screen still displays a poor connection error. He sighs in disappointment and rubs his head. He walks over and sits at his computer desk. He looks at a wall of sticky notes and photos showing memories of him growing up with his parents. He vows that he must bring his family to this apartment no matter what. He stands up and walks toward the living room window. Suddenly, a new system screen appears displaying a level 1 ultimate shut-in store. The system explains that he can use his funds to buy items listed in the store at their original prices. A prompt appears on the screen asking if he would like to list his first item. The young man looks at the system screen and touches the button to list his first item. He notes that the store is connected directly to his digital wallet. He walks over to the front door and pulls the handle, but a system message pops up confirming he still cannot leave the house. He sighs, realizing that even though his skill level increased, he is still trapped. He looks at the dead winged monster outside and deduces that if he hunts more monsters, his level will increase and he might get a skill that lets him out. To test the house's barrier, he throws a plastic water bottle off the balcony. The bottle passes right through and falls to the ground, proving he can throw items outside. He realizes he can use this to his advantage. He wonders how he will kill monsters from his balcony, since it is unlikely another large creature will crash into his window. He looks down at the street and sees the green goblins feeding on the winged monster's corpse. He decides he can try to hunt the goblins. He grabs a dumbbell and steps out onto the balcony. Down below, the goblins finish eating and start to walk away. The young man panics and tells them not to leave. He winds up his arm and hurls the heavy dumbbell down the street. Praying he does not miss, the dumbbell plummets and strikes a goblin directly on the head, crushing its skull instantly. The other goblins look at their dead companion and shriek. The young man looks down nervously and realizes he is in trouble. He looks at his one remaining dumbbell and realizes it is the only weapon he has left. He knows he is not strong enough to lift and throw heavy electronics like his TV or computer. Down on the ground, the furious goblins spot him standing on the balcony. They point at him and roar loudly. The goblins jump onto the side of the apartment building and begin rapidly scaling the walls toward him. The young man watches them climb in terror before realizing they are still a fair distance away. He suddenly gets an idea. He opens his system store screen and taps the list item button. The system asks if he wants to list the item. He holds up his last dumbbell and agrees. A blue light emits from the screen and scans the dumbbell to add it to the digital store. A system screen confirms the 3 kg dumbbell is listed in the store for $16,991. The young man is surprised to see the price is exactly the same as the market rate before the world ended. Another prompt appears asking if he wants to purchase the item. He excitedly yells yes and presses the button. A bright blue light flashes on the balcony and a brand new dumbbell materializes. He grabs the dumbbell and notes it has the exact same weight as his original one. He winds his arm back and hurls it straight down the side of the apartment building. The heavy weight plummets and crushes the head of a climbing goblin. A system message pops up saying he hunted a level 7 goblin, gained experience, and earned 345 won. He cheers, but the remaining goblins roar in anger and continue scaling the wall. The young man curses and quickly purchases 3 more sets of dumbbells from the system store. The glowing dumbbells appear in front of him. He grabs one and throws it, striking another goblin right in the face. A new system message states he hunted a level 6 goblin and earned 2,512 won. It also notifies him that his skill level has increased and he obtained a new skill. A window appears detailing a level 1 storage skill, which provides an alternate dimension for storing items. He opens the storage and tests it by placing a dumbbell inside. He then summons it, and the dumbbell instantly reappears in his hand. He smiles maliciously, realizing he can summon stored items to any location he wants. He walks to the edge of the balcony and opens the storage, holding his hand out over the long drop. He repeatedly commands the system to summon the dumbbells. Dozens of heavy dumbbells materialize in mid-air and rain down on the monsters. The falling weights smash into the climbing goblins and knock them back to the ground. A stream of system notifications pops up, showing he hunted multiple goblins between levels 5 and 7. He receives a massive amount of experience points and over 54,000 won is deposited into his wallet. A new prompt asks if he would like to list additional items, and he smiles brightly as he accepts. The young man looks at his system store, which now lists 10 items including his used dumbbell, groceries, and daily necessities. He suddenly notices his digital wallet balance drop by 1 won. He realizes that keeping the dignity preservation skill active requires him to pay the utility bills for his restored electricity, gas, and water. He sighs, finding the new expense troublesome. He steps out onto the balcony and curses the goblins. After he dropped the massive volley of dumbbells, the surviving monsters fled and abandoned the area. He looks down at the empty street and the skeletal remains of the first monster, realizing he needs to find a new method to hunt. He looks up at the sky and hopes another winged monster will fly by. To his surprise, he spots a large calican soaring above the buildings. Excited, he quickly grabs a metal folding clothes rack. He swings the metal rack outside his balcony barrier and strikes the flying calican. The monster screeches in anger and dives directly toward him. The young man smiles, thinking his plan worked, and the creature will kill itself by crashing into the house's defense. However, the Calican suddenly veers off and crashes violently into the neighboring apartment right next to his balcony. The young man looks on in shock as the massive monster recovers and begins repeatedly ramming its head against his blue digital barrier. The system flashes a continuous warning that an unauthorized entity is attempting to enter. He watches the barrier shake and sweats nervously, wondering if the monster can actually break through. He quickly opens his store screen, knowing he has to take action. He remembers that during his goblin hunts, some survivors dragged the corpses of their dead allies away, causing him to lose the loot. He deduces that the system only calculates rewards if the corpse is within a certain distance of his house, knowing he might lose the rewards if the Calican dies in the neighbor's apartment. He clenches his teeth and vows he cannot let that happen. The young man wonders if there is a way to kill the massive monster in one shot. He gets an idea and quickly purchases 10 bottles of canola oil from the system store. He runs to the kitchen, pours the oil into a large pot, and turns on the stove to boil it. While the oil heats up, he wraps some cloth around the end of a stick to create a makeshift torch. He opens his store screen and lists the boiling hot canola oil as a new item. He then uses a lighter to ignite his torch. With the torch burning brightly, he rushes back out to the balcony. The Calican is resting its head against the blue barrier. He looks at the monster and commands the system to summon the canola oil. A portal opens above the Calican and the boiling hot oil pours directly over the creature's head and eyes. The monster shrieks in agony and thrashes around. The young man steps forward with his lit torch, yells at the monster to die, and thrusts the fire toward it. The oil catches fire instantly, engulfing the massive bird in a huge explosion of flames. The young man smiles and cheers that his plan worked. The burning Calican falls backward away from the apartment and plummets toward the ground. It crashes into the street below and stops moving. Several system screens pop up in front of the young man. The system confirms he successfully defeated a level 27 Calican and obtained a massive amount of experience points. It also notes that his skill levels have increased and he obtained a new skill. The system finishes calculating the loot from the nearby corpse and deposits over 9.3 million won into his digital wallet. The young man stares at the screen, shocked by the huge sum of money. Suddenly, a new blue system message appears. It states that the requirements have been met and the house territory expansion has begun. The entire apartment building starts to violently shake. The young man grabs the balcony railing to steady himself as the ground rumbles beneath his feet. A wave of blue digital energy washes over his body. His vision suddenly shifts, passing straight through the solid walls of the building. Inside the adjacent apartment, he sees a mother, father, and 2 children sitting on the floor around a table in the dark. He stares in shock, realizing there are still living people next door.